Hello, and welcome to the Fat Wallet Podcast. I am your host, Jaime Elizondo, and it's my pleasure to have you here. I hope you're having a good day, a good start of the week, and I will try to explain a very important and dear to me study and conclusion as clearly as I can. This is very important. You see, you're likely familiar with the take half, live half recommendation that originated from a study conducted by Ryder in the 1950s. The study showed that recutting a plant too often can shorten its root system. Well, 70 years later, most grazing gurus and grazing management magazines still are teaching that very flawed recommendation, with a few of them starting to point out that it is not good advice. It just took them over 70 years to acknowledge the huge mistake of that wrong conclusion, which was that by grazing only half the plant, the roots will continue to grow. I had thought about this in previous podcasts, but let me just say that it is impossible to set a grazing height or residual, as our livestock graze selectively when we allow them to choose what they prefer. And that is the leading cause of range or pasture degradation. It is the leading cause of our best grasses disappearing, being replaced by non-desirable species. So what else does this wrong advice bring? Well, the creation of a hard pan in those pastures managed that way. Why? Because overgrazing plants causes short roots, and overgrazing is regrazing a plant before they have adequately recovered, and that allows the hard pan to form at a depth of 3 to 5 inches. This hard pan inhibits water and air infiltration, reduces root exploration, and significantly reduces your grass productivity. How much? 3 to 5 times less. My thinking is that Kreider was trying to prove that overgrazing or repeatedly cutting a grass plant too frequently would shorten its roots, and if continued for long, would kill the grass plant. So that's overgrazing. Somehow, other people concluded that they could then get their livestock to graze like a mower, which a mower can have its cutting height adjusted. And this is a very wrong conclusion because cattle, livestock do not graze like that. Okay, why am I saying this? Why I don't get straight to the point? After all, the title of this podcast is How Can We Increase Our Soil's Long-Term Fertility? I am saying this because we need to know where this folly came from, not to repeat it again and again. When I started learning and experimented with very high stocking rates grazing without running out of grass on my own farm, and that was back in 1991, the main suggestion was to never allow your cattle to take more than half. But that's impossible. I experienced it. Then I witnessed a change among the grazing gurus. They said, now take 1/3, leave 1/3, and trample the other third. That's even worse. That means they need to return to the first paddock even faster, creating overgrazing whenever grass growth slowed down. Why couldn't they see this? Could it be that they were working with a very low stocking rate compared to potential? You bet. They were not even grazing their own cattle on their own land. Okay, another crucial misunderstanding is on how to increase your soil's fertility, your long-term soil fertility without spending money on inputs. But first, we need to know that there are two forms of soil carbon. One is rapidly degraded, and I will call it short-lived soil carbon, and the other one has a longer life of up to around 100 years, and I will call it long-lived soil carbon. why do I start with soil carbon? What does soil carbon has to do with long-term soil fertility? Well, let me explain with an easier to understand name. Organic matter and soil organic matter can be short-lived or long-lived. We know that soil organic matter holds moisture, releases nutrients for our grasses, maintains or buffers pH extremes in our soil, and dies down damaging chemicals so that soil life can thrive. Oh, did I mention that soil life makes your soil spongy? So, would it be okay with you if we call long-lived organic matter that lasts over 100 years in our soil fertility determinant? Okay, if you agree on that one, we can go further. So how can one element, carbon, supply all the other necessary mineral elements that our forages demand? Ah, here is where this gets interesting. You see, carbon is part of life, is part of organic matter, and long-lived organic matter is mostly made of decomposed, digested by fungi, bodies of fat soil microbes. And these fat soil microbes had in their bodies all the necessary mineral elements to sustain life. Scientists call this necromass, which is simply another name for dead microbes' bodies, the mass that they make up. But after these bodies have been digested by other microbes, there comes a time when only fungi can further digest them. After fungi have digested them many times, there are no other microorganisms that can further digest them, and that is the reason they last for around 100 years. Interesting, right? If you consider that now we know how to greatly increase our soil long-term fertility in an easy way and profitable way, wouldn't you like that? To increase your soil fertility, productivity, and quality of your forages and grasses while saving money? That is how we maximize profits in the Total Grazing Academy, maintaining our livestock in the highest quality paddocks in the green season and growing the largest acreage as stockpile grass or standing hay for the winter and dry seasons of the year. Maybe you thought that we starve our higher number of productive livestock to accommodate for the same acreage, but nothing could be further from the truth. We follow nature, and in nature, wild animals get fat and have their offspring in the green season, and then maintain excellent body condition the rest of the year. Now let's go back to how to create more long-term fertility in your soil by increasing the long-lived soil carbon part of your increase in your organic matter. I want to invite you to download my scientific type paper called Increase Your Soil Fertility by Stockpiling Grass, and you can find it under rwranching.com/soil carbon in one word. In that paper, you will see real-life pictures and read scientific links to studies that support what I propose. And you will see pictures of happy plants. Grass plants that keep growing their leaf size without sensing the need to go to seed. Would you like that? To have your grass keep growing in leaf size and not bolt into seed? Well, we now have 3 students in different parts of the world achieving this in their farms. So it's not only me. It's not something that cannot be replicated. It's easy to do. So once you get to that stage, happy plants, your soil long-term fertility and productivity continues to increase, but sharply, much faster now. Your livestock are healthier due to higher quality and your costs drop. So how can you get to happy plant stage? The best way is through implementing the Total Grazing Academy in its entirety, where you stockpile a section of your property to have standing hay in the winter and save around $300 per cow per year. And what happens to the energy reserves of your stockpile grass? grass that has not been grazed for over 6 months. They get full, and the energy liquid starts to leak out the roots. Wait, doesn't this happen in the green season? Well, forages, grasses, legumes, and forbs exude through their roots to feed soil life. This soil life, in turn, makes nutrients available to plants, nutrients that were not available previously. This is how the symbiosis between plants and soil life works. But in the green season grazing section, where we're grazing for quality, these root exudates are mainly sugars or simple molecules that bacteria can digest faster than fungi can. Have you heard about the importance of the ratio of bacteria to fungi in creating soil fertility? Well, in the green season grazing areas, we get mostly short-term fertility in our soils because it is bacterial dominated. And this is the reason most selective grazing methods do not improve the land as fast as we do. Then, when we stockpile whole sections for at least 6 months, these sugary root exudates switch to fatty and amino acids root exudates as the plant matures and goes over mature. This is where around 80 to 90% of our increase in long-lived soil carbon happens. And this is the reason we outperform the selective grazing paradigm methods. This is the reason we maximize our profits while we improve our land the fastest. Conclusion and recap. The take half, live half recommendation has done much harm to the grazing industry. As livestock cannot be adjusted in grazing to a certain height or residual, this has led to overgrazing, which is grazing a plant before it has adequately recovered. Further, some grazing gurus came out with the take 1/3, trample 1/3, and leave standing another third, which is even worse, as it means your livestock return faster to your first graze paddock. This creates more overgrazing at the high stocking rates needed for profit and to improve the land. And this has been ongoing for approximately 70 years. Now we have the total grazing program to avoid these mistakes. But we need to understand nature, basic plant physiology, to manage correctly and to improve our long-term soil fertility without inputs. We have short-lived soil carbon and long-lived soil carbon. They are both part of our soil organic matter. Our long-term soil carbon or humus is our soil's authentic long-term fertility. Because this humus is made of the bodies of fat soil microbes digested by fungi, it cannot be further degraded by microorganisms, and it contains all the necessary nutrients to sustain life and feed our plants much better than any synthetic fertilizer. In the Total Grazing Academy, we maintain our livestock in our highest quality pastures the whole green season. Then we stockpile whole sections to have more standing hay for winter and the dry season and to grow your soil fertility, as it is when stockpiling, when our grasses grow over mature, that most of our new soil humus is created. And this doesn't happen in the green season grazing area, where root and crown energy reserves are going down after each graze and up when recovering. There is never enough excess energy to return to the soil as fatty root exudates to grow fat microbes. Then there is the matter of happy plants, a name I use to describe high energy reserve plants that keep growing in leaf size without the need to go to seed. And if you want to learn more about this, download my scientific style paper, which is free, at www.rwranching.com/soil carbon as one word. Once you read this paper, and you think about it, please ask me questions at info@rwranching.com and I will answer. It will be my pleasure. Thank you very much for listening. You see, there is a lot of outdated information out there. We need to be actualized to the newest discoveries and insights, especially those that prove to be correct by our experience out in the real world around the world. I suggest to observe your grass, soil, and livestock closely and see if what is in this podcast and in my scientific style paper fits with your observations. Stop being a follower and become a leader. Those that follow never see the whole picture and cannot rise much above average. Subscribe to my weekly blogs and get our freebies by visiting rwranching.com. Well, have a good rest of the week and may God bless you, your family, your land, and your livestock. See you next time.